283명 탈락.
무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다.
192명 탈락. 385명 탈락.
I stumbled, my legs barely supporting me after surviving the latest round of the Squid Game. Player 132, that's who I was now. 77, my closest companion in this nightmare, laughed with a mix of relief and exhaustion.
We made it 132.
For a fleeting moment, his grin was contagious.
Anyway, I'm Hansu.
He said, offering me a bottle of water.
I came here to save my company. It's been going through some tough times.
I hesitated, but his open expression prompted me to reply. I'm Inho, I said quietly, the words dragging like weights. Hansu's eyes softened.
What brought you here?
I hesitated, my throat tight. My wife, she has liver cancer, end stage. The light in his eyes dimmed.
I'm sorry,
he said softly. I gave part of my liver to my younger brother years ago. Now I can't do the same for her. And I don't have time to clear my name. His brows furrowed.
Clear your name?
I sighed, the words tumbling out. I used to be a cop, a good one, but someone framed me for bribery. I lost my job, my reputation, everything. This game is my last chance to save her. Hansu placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder.
We'll get through this together, Inho.
Players, welcome to the fourth game. The game you're playing today is Mingle. All players must step onto the central platform. The platform will spin while music plays. When it stops, a number will be called out. You will have 30 seconds to form a group of that exact number. Anyone left out or in the wrong number will be eliminated.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hansu gripped my arm tightly.
We're in this together, right?
I nodded. The platform began to spin, music blaring as we clung to the railings for balance. When the music abruptly stopped, the overseer's voice boomed.
Form groups of 4.
I reached for Hansu instinctively. 2 others quickly joined us, and a wave of relief washed over me as I glanced at the chaos unfolding. Those left ungrouped screamed in terror as masked guards dragged them away. The game repeated. Each round, the number called out changed. 5, 6. Hansu and I stuck together, forming alliances as necessary. Then came the final round.
Form groups of 2.
We sprinted toward the door right in front of us. It felt like salvation was only a few steps away. But as we neared the door, another player shoved past us, diving into the spot. Wait! I yelled, panic surging through me. Hansu froze, his face twisted with guilt.
I'm so sorry, Inho.
Before I could react, he shoved me backward. My years as a cop kicked in as I lunged forward, grabbing his arm in a vice-like grip.
Let go!
He shouted, his voice laced with fear. No! The timer ticked down. 10 seconds. With a final burst of strength, I shoved him away and bolted toward the door. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hansu had been my ally, my friend. But in the end, survival outweighed everything else. The remaining games passed in a blur. Hopscotch. I overcame them with ease. The final game, the Squid Game, didn't pose a challenge for me either. By the time it was over, I wasn't the same person. Every step, every choice was calculated, cold. I won. The prize, 45.6 billion won. But when I returned home, triumph was hollow. My wife was gone. On the table lay a letter, her trembling handwriting scrawled across the page.
I couldn't wait any longer, Inho, but I want you to know our baby would have been beautiful.
Beside the note was an ultrasound image. I crumpled to the floor, the weight of it all crushing me. Seeking closure, I returned to my old precinct. That's when I learned the truth. Kang Jun, my former partner, had framed me for bribery. He wanted the promotion, and I was the perfect scapegoat. Rage boiled inside me as I tracked him down, knife in hand. I was ready to end his life, but a voice stopped me.
Why waste such anger?
I turned to see a man in a black suit, his face obscured by a sleek, three-dimensional mask.
I can offer you something better. Destroy him the way he destroyed you, ruin his career, and then
He handed me a familiar card.
invite him to the game. Let fate decide if he survives, or let him depend on you.
He removed his mask and handed it to me. With nothing left to lose, I accepted his offer. Now I am the front man. From the control room, I watch as players fight, betray, and bleed. Each scream, each desperate plea, it exhilarates me. When Kang Jun finally stepped into the arena, his pale face stripped of its arrogance, I felt nothing but satisfaction. He didn't last long. As Oh Il-nam, the mastermind of the Squid Game, watched from the shadows, he chuckled.
An interesting game, wouldn't you agree?
I didn't reply. I adjusted my mask and turned back to the screens. The next season was about to begin.
It all started with a story. I was sitting in the back of the classroom, my legs stretched out under the desk, smirking as the new teacher, Ms. Evelyn, told us about Pinocchio. She had a haunting way of speaking, her voice soft but piercing, as if it could slice through your lies and expose every hidden truth.
Lies,
She said,
don't just twist the world around you. They twist you. They reshape you into something you don't recognize.
I rolled my eyes. Cool story, miss, but we're not 5 anymore. The class chuckled, and I basked in the attention. I was Beino, the untouchable. My dad's money kept me safe no matter what I did. That afternoon, Jim became my target again. Skinny, quiet, and always an easy pick. Hey, Jimmy boy, I called, snatching the milk carton from his hands. Before he could react, I dumped it over his head.
Stop, please!
Jim's voice cracked as he wiped milk from his face. But mercy wasn't my style. As he tried to escape, I loaded my slingshot with a small stone. But Jim turned at the last second. For a second, I just stood there, the slingshot slack in my hand. Then the fear kicked in. My heart pounded, but I did what I always did. I walked away. Let someone else find him. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Jim falling replayed in my mind. When I finally drifted off, I woke up to a strange stiffness in my legs. I threw back the covers and gasped. My left leg was straight, rigid, and unnaturally smooth. Running my hand over it, I realized with growing horror, it felt like polished wood. This isn't real, I muttered. Pulling on a pair of jeans, I forced myself to act normal. All the attention that morning was on Jim. Whispers circulated about how he'd been found unconscious, hospitalized with no sign of waking up. My stomach twisted. Surely that couldn't be my fault. Could it? Then the police showed up. They questioned everyone going down the line of students. My stomach churned as they got closer.
Beino?
One officer said, his pen poised.
Where were you after school yesterday?
I swallowed hard. The truth clawed at my throat, but I couldn't admit it. Not when my dad's reputation, my safety, everything was on the line. I went straight home. I lied. Pain shot up to my shoulder as I looked down. My fingers were locking into place, the skin taking on the same unnatural wooden texture as my leg. I clutched my arm, hiding it behind my back. That's all I know. The officer nodded and moved on, but the damage was done. I darted behind the school building, my breath ragged. I checked my hand. It was wooden, my fingers stiff, immobile. A voice behind me made me jump.
Boino, are you all right?
I turned to see Miss Evelyn. Her gaze was sharp, too knowing. She asked if I knew anything about Jim's injury. I shook my head, denying it again. But with every word, I felt my body stiffen further, my chest constricting like it was encased in a wooden cage. Miss Evelyn's eyes bore into me, and she said softly,
Boino, lying won't save you. I can't help if you don't tell the truth.
At home, my dad was waiting, his usual stern expression fixed on me.
Sit down,
he ordered. I obeyed, my legs creaking like ancient floorboards.
What happened at school today?
I hesitated. The room seemed to close in around me. Nothing, Dad. Just a normal day. The wooden transformation surged. My hands froze mid-air. My face stiffened as my nose began to stretch outward. Enough, I blurted, tears spilling. It's my fault. Jim is hurt because of me. I didn't mean to. But my confession did little to soften my father's gaze.
Does anyone else know?
He asked coldly. Miss Evelyn, I admitted. She suspects everything. For a moment, my father said nothing. The silence was unbearable. I dreaded these moments, the calm before the storm. Maybe I had gone too far this time. Maybe I'd finally done something even he couldn't protect me from. I'm sorry, Dad. Tomorrow I'll go to the police. I'll tell them everything. I dropped to my knees, pleading for his forgiveness. I regret what I did, and all the lies. He rose slowly, his movements unnervingly stiff. Under the flickering light, his shadow warped and stretched, revealing something monstrous. My heart froze. His true form emerged, a towering wooden puppet, his face rigid and eerily lifeless.
We don't lie, Boino. We create the truth.
As he spoke, his nose began to extend, the wooden grain cracking as it grew longer. Without a word, he opened a drawer, pulling out a rusty saw. In one swift, he sliced through the wooden length of his nose. Dad? What are you doing?
She'll be handled. You'll learn, just as I did.
As he left, his wooden joints creaking, I sat there, paralyzed. The next day, Miss Evelyn didn't show up. Rumours spread, but no one had answers. I knew, though. Dad had silenced her. More unsettling was the slow realisation that other staff members, teachers, the principal, moved with that same stilted stiffness. They were like me, or worse, like my father. At break time, my friends asked,
Do you know what happened to Miss Evelyn?
I hesitated. My wooden fingers tapped against the table. No idea. I would never escape. A puppet, bound by strings I couldn't see, forever performing the lies I told.
Moving into Eric's house was supposed to be the beginning of a fresh chapter for us. But the moment I stepped through the door, an uneasy feeling washed over me. Eric, a talented painter, had hung his latest work in the living room, a portrait of a beautiful woman with long flowing hair and piercing eyes. From the moment I saw it, I felt a deep discomfort. The woman's eyes seemed unnervingly alive, following me around the room as if they were trying to convey something sinister hidden within their gaze. I think it's looking at me, Eric.
It's just a painting, Jamie. You're imagining things.
But I wasn't imagining anything. Every time I entered the room, I felt her gaze on me, like she was trying to communicate something. As the days passed, I began seeing her move, or at least I thought I did. It started small, with her eyes shifting slightly in the frame. And then one night, I had a nightmare. The woman stepped out of the painting, her cold hand gripping my arm as she whispered a single word into my ear. Run! I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart racing. I could still feel her presence in the room, her eyes burning into me even in the dark. I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted Eric the next morning, insisting he move the painting out of the bedroom. After some resistance, he finally agreed, relocating it to his office. But instead of feeling relief, things only got worse. Eric became obsessed with the painting, spending hours in his office talking to himself in low, frantic whispers. When he finally emerged, his arms were covered in scratches, as if he'd been in a fight. I asked him about it, but he shrugged me off, saying it was nothing, just an accident. But I knew better. I knew the painting was doing something to him. One night, after Eric had fallen asleep, I sneaked into his office, determined to find out what was going on. The painting hung on the wall, the woman's eyes now more intense than ever. They seemed to follow me as I crossed the room. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, snapping a picture of the portrait. I quickly ran an image search, and what I found made my blood run cold. The woman in the painting was real. Her name was Anya, a young woman who had been reported missing years ago. The last person seen with her was her boyfriend, who had also vanished without a trace. There was a coincidence when I looked at Anya's picture. The earrings that Anya was wearing were identical to the pair that Eric gave me last month when we celebrated our 1-month anniversary. My heart pounded as I connected the dots. Could Eric be involved in Anya's missing? My eyes darted around the room, searching for clues. That's when I noticed a blank canvas on an easel, set up as if Eric was preparing to start a new painting. But it wasn't the canvas that caught my attention. It was the knife lying next to his brushes. A sharp, clean blade that had no place in a painter's studio. Suddenly, I felt a chill run down my spine. I turned back to the painting, and this time, Anya's expression had changed. Her mouth moved, forming the word I had heard in my nightmare. Run! I spun around, ready to leave, but Eric was standing in the doorway, his face twisted in a mix of anger and madness.
What are you doing in here, Jamie?
I was just... I stammered, backing away.
You shouldn't have snooped around, babe,
he said, stepping closer.
Now you know too much.
My breath caught in my throat as he revealed the truth. Eric was the one who had killed Anya, driven by some twisted obsession. But now, he needed a new muse, a new canvas to save him from his guilt.
And that's going to be you, Jamie.
He whispered, raising the knife. I bolted, running out of the room as fast as I could. My heart pounded in my ears as I sprinted towards the door, fumbling with my phone to dial 911. But Eric was fast, faster than I expected. He grabbed me just as I reached the front door, pulling me back with terrifying strength. Please, Eric, you don't have to do this.
Stop it. I need a new muse, Jamie.
Just as I thought it was all over, I heard the wail of sirens in the distance. The police stormed the house, guns drawn, quickly subdued him, wresting the knife from his hand. He was cuffed and dragged away, his eyes wild with a mix of rage and despair. They took him away. As the police searched the house, they found more than enough evidence to link Eric to Anya's missing, her belongings hidden in his office, the same place where he had kept the painting. And they also found Anya's decaying body in the basement of Eric's house. I never imagined that the person I had been dating for the past few months was a deranged killer. Before I left, I turned back to the house one last time. The painting was still there, hanging in the office. Anya's eyes met mine, but this time, they weren't filled with fear or sorrow. They were filled with gratitude.